Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs.
So why did you guys bring me here?
So I'm going to even circumvent that. I'm going to kick down the fourth wall before we even get 2 minutes into this.
We barely put the wall up, and you're already kicking it down.
I'm kicking it down.
The wall.
The intro works perfectly with the colors and style that Joe chose for the title of the podcast. It's just beautiful.
Thank you.
There, I'm done kicking the wall down. So Bob, you're here because Mystery Science
for the teacher.
Yes, Mystery Science Theater taught me that you must always subject your friends to experimentation via media.
Agreed. Yeah.
And as such, I know you have had some thoughts, opinions, stances on anime in the past. And I thought, in the midst of a pandemic, why not make you the perfect victim to my whims? And I got Joe and Nick to kind of help me with this.
As people who agree that media is to be inflicted, not simply enjoyed.
Correct. One must be subjected to it, and therefore, normally when one is subjected, they have it inflicted upon them, whether they like it or not.
Inflicted. I'm conflicted about your inflection and the inflicted way you're going to treat me, but okay.
Well, Bob, let me put it this way. You love Star Trek. I love Star Trek. Star Trek V was inflicted on all of us, whether we liked it or not.
True.
So, we're going to give you the same options, but it's going to be better than Star Trek V.
Well, listen, we've made a list of anime, period, new thought.
And we checked it twice.
I've seen the end of the list. I have not seen Star Trek V, but I have seen the end of our list here, so...
Star Trek V was worse, I promise.
Really? Okay. All right.
Star Trek V was worse because William Shatner directed it.
Ooh, okay, yeah, okay.
He tried to direct.
Okay, when I know you can't hear air quotes, but they were there, I promise you.
But before we get into talking about our big list, we're here to. So that's like the point of this show, right? Is we're going to be going down this list, and we're going to be introducing you to what we think are sort of like touchstones and highlights of anime. But we should probably give a little bit of all of our backstories in anime.
Okay, I'm Bob. I've watched Dragon Ball Z, which people have told me is an anime.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I tell people how I've watched this anime, they're like, and what else? And I have to rack my brain.
We just covered before the podcast, you've also seen Super.
Oh, that's Dragon Ball,
That's
isn't
still
it?
Dragon Ball.
You said Z, though. It's all Dragon Ball.
Okay, yes. I've watched most of Dragon Ball Z, thank you, Cartoon Network, and over half of Super, but I know there's more out there.
You are aware anime exists, yes.
Yes, like I've seen a couple of Miyazaki, is that right?
Correct.
Okay,
A couple of his films, like Princess Monkey, and
God damn it, Bob.
Howl's Castle That Moves.
How's Motorhome?
And that's
You are at least tangentially familiar with the Totoros.
Yeah, I have not seen that at all. I've heard it's okay. I don't know. There's something about a bus made out of a cat that's a little disturbing.
You're not incorrect, Technically.
Technically correct. It's the best kind of correct.
Yes.
Fair.
But so what about non-anime then? Because we did handpick this list for you, going over sort of like, a little bit of knowing just like what you like in general.
Mhm.
So how about share some of that?
Yeah, tell us your tastes.
I am all about science fiction. I like Chuck said, I really do enjoy the Star Treks. I don't mind fantasy, but I'm not much of a fantasy person, which sounds double standard. But in the media, I can appreciate it while not delving into it too much. I've never seen Lord of the Rings all the way through.
I would
So-
say, and stop me if I'm wrong, my interpretation of your taste has always been like low fantasy, not quote unquote high fantasy, such as Lord of the Rings, has been more your thing. Is that not right?
I would say that's correct.
Okay.
Uh,
You like comedy, right?
well, who doesn't like comedy? I mean, come on.
The people who are the butt of the joke.
I was gonna
those
say,
are the- those are the
not a
people
fan
who I
of
laugh
most
at the
comedy
most.
movies.
I mean, I have a couple soapboxes I could stand on, but I don't think this is the time or the place.
I'm sure we'll make time.
Okay. See, just wait there, guys. You're going to be fine. We're going to get your day.
Drama is kind of iffy. Suspense is fun. Horror, I'm not the best at horror. I can appreciate it, but I do not go out of my way to watch horror movies.
You loved Us. I remember that.
Okay, was good, and that's different. That's more suspense than horror.
I agree.
Okay.
It's still really good. Bob is my accountability buddy in the Get Out scenario. If I ever disappear, he is my TSA agent that's supposed to come rescue me.
Okay.
Superhero, which is a genre that's out for the past 20 years, I actually do enjoy. There are others I know who may not be so much, but I do enjoy it.
Oh, I might have to make a late add to the list at some point here in the background.
Like I said, we're before podcast. There will definitely be a list too. I have some ideas,
Okay.
Oh yes.
and I think I know one of them Nick might be thinking of.
Well, I just wrote it in the document, so if you're looking at it, you know.
I don't know.
My niece and her friends
Yep.
all watch My Hero Arachnophobia or whatever.
Yep.
So I know that it
Bob,
exists.
I just want to thank you already for killing whatever audience we had, if we were even to have one.
Nah, I'm down with whatever audience continues to be here.
Oh, I'm down with that audience, but I love how he keeps chipping away at possible audience members. He's like, no, I gotta offend this one. Now get this one.
It's great.
Well,
great.
it's for me getting the stepping stone to find out what I like. Maybe it'll be for me, and I'll have to actually say the name properly.
Fair enough.
You
That's
don't
your
know.
sign of respect.
Yeah, it has to earn your respect first.
Win me over. It's All Might, right? I think that's what she said.
All Might, yes.
Win me over, All Might. I knew that.
The anime needs to T-pose for dominance.
Anime TV. Okay.
I've already got one in mind for that.
Okay, so you are our sort of least experienced in this group. So who wants to go next out of us anime sages? Are we sages? Is that okay to say?
It's a good spice for Thanksgiving.
That's right. I have spicy takes.
I think we all do. I don't know. Okay. Do we want to do this in order of the oldest anime you've ever watched? Let me put mine out there. Oldest popular anime you've ever liked. I'm going to throw out Legend of Galactic Heroes, OG.
Yeah, okay. Just go ahead. Just give us your background. Like how
Okay.
now. So that was probably
I was actually
the.
counting on you to have something older, damn it.
I honestly that's one that's missing off of my history, so I actually don't know where to place it.
80s?
I also don't know. I can think of ones that I don't know, Speed Racer.
I thought you watched Astro Boy.
I may have seen Astro Boy at one point. I
Oh.
have a VHS tape that I taped off air when Toonami did the Giant Robot Week, and that has Tetsujin 28 episodes on it. So technically that counts.
Well,
Legend of the Galactic Heroes ran from 1988 to 1997.
I'm older than it. Hooray! Also, oh no.
I'm fairly confident you just said words. I've heard of Astro Boy. He is a boy who is Astro.
I mean,
He's just a good boy. He's a little Mega Man.
Doesn't he have like a weird spike on his head or something?
Yes. Just like
And
Alfalfa.
he wants his hair.
I love Speed Racer. I mean, the speech patterns there are just top notch.
Yes, they are, and I will not hear contrary. That is one thing that movie, which was forced upon me, did not do right. They did not preserve the speech patterns. English speech patterns.
That movie was good, though. But what's your history? Like, okay, if that's the oldest thing you watched, what was like the first thing you watched? What was the first thing that you looked at and said, "Oh, this is anime"?
Okay, so hold on, because I actually typed something for this because I needed to sit in my mental Wayback Machine and think about when I first encountered anime, like knowingly. So let us go back to the year 2001. I remember specifically it was like really early in my sophomore year of high school. We had just gotten like new channels on our cable pack, and I was up late because South Park was on, and that's what a little teenager does, is watch stupid things. Because, you know, that's edgy. And I was flipping the channels to see what else was on, and I just happened across this like spaceship flying through a very colorful space vista. It was beautiful. I'd never seen anything like it. It was this really thin red ship just shooting around, and it had arms, and I'm like, go on.
Okay, yeah, I'm following.
And then the real hook for me out of all of it, because don't get me wrong, I'm loving all of it, I have no idea what's happening in front of me, is the end credits theme played. And like, I am a sucker for like these bittersweet, melancholic melodies. They just hook me in, like, there's clearly something here, and I don't know what it is, but tell me more. And then it was followed up by a show with a lot of muscle guys fighting a big green bug guy.
Mm-hmm.
And next day I found out, oh, this is Outlaw Star and Dragon Ball Z. This is anime. I've heard of these things. And, they were whispered in the halls. I mean, back then, kind of literally. And so that was the real initial hook for me. I was like, I have just seen something I don't understand, but I want to know more.
So,
and then the next, go ahead.
That must have been Toonami Midnight Run. So my question, to just sort of help set the era, is who was hosting Toonami at the time?
Tom.
That was Tom, but that was little chubby Silver Tom?
Yes.
Who I have the Funko Pop of sitting on my desk in front of me?
The one true Tom, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know the next day at school I mentioned to a friend of mine, it's like, yeah, I saw this thing called Toonami. He's like, oh yeah, that's really enjoyable. I'm like, why didn't you tell me about this? He's like, I didn't know you'd be into that. I'm like, I didn't know either. Tell me more. And he says, here's a VHS I just got back from a friend of mine. Hands it over. I don't know what a Tenchi Muyo is, but I'll watch this. And yeah, that helped. And he's like, yeah, it's on at 4. Yes. It's like, it's on at 4 on Cartoon Network. Go watch it. I'm like, oh, so it's not just a midnight thing. Interesting. So I was introduced in the same, in a 24-hour period to that, the Gundam, Wing, as I mentioned, Outlaw Star, DBZ, and I was really hooked by those. And I remember also at that time, Escaflowne was on Fox on Saturdays.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, like I said, this is way back, so it all kind of hit me at once, and I tried watching that really butchered edit. Okay. And while it didn't make any sense, I absolutely fell in love with the idea of, like, here is a medium fantasy world. It clearly looks high fantasy. Medium fantasy world where what looks like bone structure mech turns into dragon mech. tell me more. And so that was like the hook that kind of kept me interested. Gundam Wing really did a lot of heavy lifting. And then like the very first Saturday night Adult Swim came on with Yu Yu Hakusho, Inuyasha, Mobile Suit Gundam 0083 Stardust Memory.
Mm.
I was like, oh, well, someone has my number, I guess. These are all things that are very interesting to me. And that's really how it grew.
I mean, that is such a great time to get into anime because, like, I remember the Gundam Wing DBZ era very well. That was like, I was all in on that. That was my after school for forever.
Yeah, I remember, what was it, Friday nights they would do like anime movie night. You'd have Mobile Suit, Gundam Wing, Endless Waltz. You'd have whatever Sailor Moon movie they were putting on that week and whatever Dragon Ball Z movie they were running through.
Yep.
Was that your intro to anime?
Yes, it really was. Like I could say I was introduced by my brother much earlier in life to Voltron, but I know I watched it with him because he told me so. I don't remember that. Something about being a small child does that to one as they grow up.
How about you, Nick?
Yes.
So the reason I ask about who was hosting Toonami at the time is because I was on board like the day Toonami launched when Moltar was the host.
Moltar?
I remember those days.
But that really wasn't my start. Like it's funny because when I think back, I can remember being very young and like actually same thing, late night Cartoon Network, and it's like, okay, we're gonna show the very early dubs of Speed Racer. I remember like when like weekday afternoons, one channel would show Samurai Pizza Cats, which you want to watch a show that has an amazing English dub. Let me tell you about Samurai Pizza Cats. That's still fun to go back to.
You're actually serious about that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Samurai Pizza Cats?
The Samurai Pizza Cats. They are cats who are samurai, and they run a pizza place, and hijinks ensue.
As one does.
I can tell you what he's saying is true because I remember those days of Toonami when I'd visit my grandparents. And my cousin lived near them, and she would try and get me to watch those with her because it was like Speed Racer and Thundercats and...
I know Thundercats.
Think Transformers? Like OG Transformers?
With the fun music.
Yeah, and the product placement.
But pray continue.
Yeah, it's weird, but at the time, these were just cartoons. Like, I remember Samurai Pizza Cats and the Mega Man cartoon were played back to back, and I was just like, oh yeah, they're both cartoons. I like this was before I recognized them as anime. And I don't know which one I saw first, but the two shows that I first initially recognized as anime were Sailor Moon, watching that at like, I would get up at 7 a.m. to watch the rerun on TBS of the one that was on Toonami at 4:00 the previous day. Or I remember one day being at me and my dad went to one of his friends' houses, and they were, talking to him, whatever, and I was watching TV, and Ghost in the Shell came on, the movie.
Ooh, wow.
And I was looking at that, and it was just like, oh, that's like a mannequin torso that's naked, and that lady just ripped her own arms off trying to open this tank. All right, this is anime. So Ghost in the Shell, the first movie, was like the first thing I remember being like, that's anime.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But it was just also so weird because it was it may not have even been on TV, so it was probably like an uncut version with no censoring, but that also means there were like no bumpers, there were no like There was nothing to tie it to any reality I knew. It was just like, here is this magical thing occurring on the TV, separate from all of time and space. It's like, all right, cool. That's anime. Anime's pretty cool, I think. I think it's just weird.
Like, I've
I mean,
heard of Ghost in the
yeah.
Shell, just with the current movie that they had not too long ago. That's really about it. I don't know anything about the show.
Because they did the original movie that was based on the manga, but actually having the first volume of the manga next to me, like, it has a very different tone than even the manga. But
And how?
yeah, but like, and then yeah, they did another movie. They did the show, which was Standalone Complex, and I have to imagine the movie you're talking about is based on the show, which are also very different tonally from that original movie. It's a whole thing.
Gotcha.
Tachikomas.
Nick, I take it you didn't see the live action Ghost in the Shell?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Oh god, the live action one. No,
That's
somehow I
what
did
Bob
not
is
see
talking
that.
about.
Oh god. Oh shit. No,
Yeah.
I actually can't speak to that. God.
That's I knew that's the one Bob was referring to, because when we were roommates at one point, Bob was paying for cable, silly Bob, and we had a few movie channels and that came on. But I will not lie, I was in some kind of relationship with a girl at the time, and we were both anime fans. Like, oh, Ghost in the Shell, let's go see that. What the hell just happened to us?
That was ScarJo as Makoto, right?
Yeah.
God.
I believe we are on to you, Joe.
I didn't have cable growing up. I had, in middle school and high school, I had friends who were very into anime and manga. And in high school, I joined the anime club, so I got to see some stuff there. I was in high school during the rise of the trinity of Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. Full Metal Alchemist was big. I mostly was reading manga before I started seeing things.
Okay.
And then in college, with all the nerd friends I had, we started watching anime in the lounge regularly, so I got into a bunch of stuff there. And then also just like, I remember at one point my brother and I got a movie in the library when we were kids, and it was called A Journey Through Fairyland, and no idea it was an anime, and then we watched it, and it like kind of stuck in the back of my head as I got older. But yeah, like that was from 1985. But that's just like a movie that kind of spoke to my, and as I saw more stuff as I got older, I was like, oh, I really like this stuff. Like, it's the way that it differed from Western storytelling in a lot of ways appealed to me. And the types of stories they were telling appealed to me. Like, there was just a lot in there that I really.
So it was more thinky, like more diverse than Happily Ever After, you would say?
Yeah, it was just like, I always felt a little like Western stuff was all kind of the same story. And there was more, I don't know, just like bigger thoughts in
Okay.
anime stories than I'd found in other stuff. Oh, I guess I did also. I grew up watching Pokemon and Digimon, and which also count.
All right, I will caveat and say I did watch Digimon.
Yeah, even though it was the 4Kids version or whatever, but
And I cannot go back to watch it. I watched one episode and I was like, nope, turned it off, done.
Yeah, I also need to fess up to this. I watched the Digimans and the Pokemans just to annoy, to take up Bob's portion of annoying whatever potential audience we have. And go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's not that it's bad, but for me to rewatch it, it's definitely, as a 4Kids production, it was also very 4Kids.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. I also will cop to. I will absolutely cop to watching Yu-Gi-Oh.
Well, I don't get me started. I actually really like Yu-Gi-Oh for a lot of reasons.
It will always hold a special place in my heart. I cannot stand actually playing the actual card game.
Man,
It is
the game
off
has
the
gotten
rail.
the game has gotten ridiculous.
But as a Magic the Gathering player, I can't really say I am above being off the rails with how power scaling has been over the last, 20 plus years.
Oh man, it has been that long.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, honestly, there's a part of me that wants every Magic game to just be Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't want, a knockout win. I want just real dumb, crazy stuff to happen.
Yeah.
So we all have a little bit of experience.
Yeah, and we got I like that we have kind of like our experiences a little bit spread out.
Mhm.
I've also had friends who've shown me a lot of like old 80s anime like stuff.
I know, we've talked about what we started with. I know in the first 2 or 3 years of my experience with anime, so keep in mind, a very narrow experience range at that point, especially in the early 2000s. I had that friend who had the bootleg VHSs that you shouldn't have because they weren't formally dubbed. And for those who are, if anyone's actually listening to this, VHS is a thing that existed before Blu-ray and DVD. You may not have ever seen one.
Oh,
Don't go
God.
back. It was a different time. Some say it was better. I would say there were okay things about it, but technology progressing is a wonderful thing. But that caveat aside, I got handed the bootleg subbed Akira.
Oh.
And I made
Akira.
the yes, and I realized I completely anglicized it Akira, and I remember making the completely reasonable choice of watching that at like 11:30 at night on a Monday with school the next day, and trying to process what I just saw.
Yeah, Akira is such a, especially if it was the old dub, like it is so hard to just like parse what is going on, but it all
Well, it was
looks
subbed.
amazing at least.
It was all subbed.
Oh, it was subbed. Oh, God.
Yeah, this VHS had that, and he had another VHS where he gave me the final DBZ movie. And I just finished watching another DBZ movie. I'm like, oh, okay, let's just watch Akira for a fun, good time. What the hell just happened to me? I have so many questions. But yeah, that's so that really kind of heavily skewed my expectations of what can be or what kind of content I could expect to see in anime as a medium.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like it's really wild, and Joe, like you were saying, we have a very sort of like range of our experiences, because you look at it and you go from like Ghost in the Shell the movie and Akira to Pokemon and Sailor Moon to DBZ and Gundam Wing, and it's like oh yeah, like at this point anime can be a lot of things. And I know like there's definitely I think we, much like a lot of North Americans, teens in the aughts, were super influenced by Toonami and what was brought over from there. But especially in the time since, getting into shows like anything, slice of life, anything that's more casual. One that my anime group watched it not that long ago. We checked out a couple episodes of Slow Loop, and that is just a story about like two stepsisters who are newly family, and they bond over just like fishing and cooking, and that's what the whole show about. It's not monster of the week and this. It's just like wholesome family story, and it's just like, oh, anime is this too? Okay, sure, go off. A lot of the shows we named are like, hey, this is again, like rad action shows for teenagers. Like even the stuff like, even stuff like Escaflowne and Akira are like, yeah, though there's other things going on there in the way that they're weird and they're different, and Japanese culture influences and all of that. But at the same time, you can still appreciate those on a level of like, there's like some cool like fights going on in these shows, and like, but something like Slow Loop is just like, oh, this is anything slice of life, like, oh, this is a totally different. It's a totally different mode of appreciation that you get into for it, I guess.
Are you saying I shouldn't just expect flashy animation and a lot of screaming?
Let me go over our list here. No, you should expect that. A lot of things we've picked are that, I think.
There will be those. And Bob, we're going to broaden your vocabulary a little bit right now. I'm going to introduce you to a word you may or may not have heard. The phrase shonen is going to come up a lot with series like Yu Yu Hakusho and Dragon Ball Z. Essentially, that's anime or manga aimed at a younger male audience in that teen age range. So that's why there's a lot of yelling and explosion and angst, because that's what that audience has.
Yeah,
in
basically
their own way.
like Dragon Ball Z is kind of the like archetypal shonen show.
Shonen. Okay.
There will be a test later.
I have to write this down.
I'll make a vocab
Shonen.
worksheet.
Yes.
And for what it's worth, I know we've mentioned Sailor Moon and Escaflowne. Those actually fall under another word for you, Bob. Shoujo.
I'm assuming that is.
We can bring up like words and vocabulary when we like.
I understand.
Each episode, like as we talk about what the show is.
Sure. I just like to give him a little hard time every now and then.
Actually,
I promise I may forget.
let me pile on a little bit, because I almost mentioned Sailor Moon specifically because while it does have elements of traditional shoujo shows, one of the reasons it actually came across in America in the late 90s, earlier than a lot of other shows, is because it was sort of the first it was structured more like a shonen show, such that that's why when they brought it over, they were like, yeah, young boys can enjoy this too, even though it has a all female group protagonists. But it is still a monster of the week. They get stronger over time. I don't remember if there's a tournament arc.
No.
Huh. Interesting. But yeah, like so much of the early stuff that, like the early stuff that got localized as, in a commercial sense, anime was getting popular in North America, was like, let's bring over all the shonen stuff because cartoons is for like young and teenage boys, and these are shonen is pretty much everything that was that. So that's why a lot of, like I said, North American viewers' history, unless you were in an anime club and were getting, you had a tape circle where people were sending tapes back and forth to each other. Or I'm trying to remember who, Joe, you might remember, somebody had a bunch of DVDs that was just all of Azumanga Daioh, the show. But like, unless you were in one of those groups who had like archives that they were passing around, you got what was on TV, and what was on TV was primarily shonen stuff, or at least stuff in the shonen vibe. Unless it was like 2 a.m. on Sci-Fi, in which you get Dominion Tank Police, which is like, all right. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, for me, that was... So, peel back the curtain of my history. I went to a Catholic high school for most of my... yeah, I know. And I turned out fine.
You poor child.
I avoided the indoctrination. It was wonderful to dodge that. Save all questions for later. But for us, that was, in order to get that kind of tape circulation, that was our drama club, our after-school drama club, was pretty much like, yeah, all the weebs are here. Pass around sacred texts.
Yeah, I went to a Catholic middle school, and my best friend was the one who got me into Invader Zim, and her birthday party was where I saw my first episode of Cowboy Bebop.
Ooh.
Yeah, good old Bebop. I will always thank Adult Swim for introducing me to that.
God,
Shonen, Shoujo.
Wax on? Wax on.
Alright, so that's a little about all of us. Now let's talk about how this podcast is set up.
Right.
So basically, the three of us each made a list of shows we would show Bob, and then we cross-referenced them and took most of the stuff that was that showed up on multiple people's lists, and then we sorted them into categories because we figured that, like, since anime is so broad and there is a lot of some shows have a lot of more Japanese culture influence that you might not be familiar with, that it might be a good idea to kind of order them in a sort of introductory to expert level.
Okay.
So we have stuff that's just kind of generally good shows, and then we have work up to stuff that's very, very anime with a capital A.
Capital A, N, and E.
Okay.
And so each tier, we figure we'll have you pick something from the tier, which
Okay.
will be the thing we watch next. And then once we've seen everything in a tier, we'll move up to the next tier.
And I'll get this out of the way because I'm sure there are other podcasts out there the audience may listen to. We are not going to set Bob up for any kind of gotcha moments or here's a terrible series, a universally or largely accepted awful show. We are not going to throw any of that at Bob.
Yeah.
We are going to set him up with. Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like you knew in asking me to participate that I would put something on there. Like I will admit, we all suggested shows that are. There's no show that we put on here that we do not personally see some merit in. Right?
Okay.
But I know I put some stuff on here that is the
Very
merit
anime?
maybe in some shock value to it. Like
Shock value is one thing. But
yeah,
we're not subjecting him to torture in the sense of, oh, this is unwatchable because of the gratuitous anime style fan service.
Right.
We're not
Like,
setting him up with school days.
our goal is genuinely for people to be able to find something in anime that they can enjoy.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to note that this is not going to be full watch throughs of any of these series. When we have decided on a show to watch, we're going to pick out basically a couple of key episodes. I think we said like 2 to 4, depending on the show, depending on what, because depending on, whose suggestion list it came off of, we're going to let them sort of be like, here's why I pitched this show, here's what the merit in it I think is, and here are the episodes I think best show it off. So we won't be watching whole series, we'll just be watching sort of highlights of all these series.
Mm-hmm.
We are giving you the experience that we had of randomly happening into this medium, not at the beginning, but somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, like that's actually probably a very genuine anime experience, whether you were, like we've said in our own little histories, whether you caught something on TV late at night, you saw something in the middle, whether you showed up to Anime Club and that's, where they were in their series watch through, whether you just got one tape randomly, that your grandmother bought you as a present and didn't realize this was volume 3 of 12, It's like sometimes you just get stuff in the middle. We're a little more curated than that, but these are glimpses. This is this is not an in-depth look at any of these. This is a horizon broadening experience.
Okay.
And because Bob and I have been friends for at least 10 years now?
Mm-hmm.
One day we're gonna have to ask Kyle and thank him for introducing us.
Mhm.
But you will, because of our friendship and the fact we were roommates for a while, Bob is absolutely going to at least have heard of some of these titles. He may have seen one or two peripherally, but I don't think enough to really have
Stuck in.
absorbed. Yeah. I intentionally avoided JoJo's this time just to give you more time away from the funny little dance you saw.
Oh, that's an odd show. Like walking by the TV and being like, that's a thing.
Yes, this is when it entered its high fashion era, Bob.
No one stands like that.
The human skeleton is incredibly versatile, Bob.
Stand, point, and yell. That's all I learned.
Yes,
Walking
that's
by,
exactly it.
stand, point, and yell.
You practically got it down, Bob. There's some, refined details. We'll get to that eventually. I have plans for that. But it's not in this run. I tried to keep things, like I said, if you saw them, because it would typically be things on my list. If you happen to see them, something you may not have seen directly, you may have heard me talk about it, but lacked context. So, and that's exactly why I specifically wanted Joe and Nick to help on this, because I could absolutely count on them to come up with things I wouldn't have mentioned for one reason or another. Mostly because I wouldn't have had access to it at the time.
And in another level of obfuscation, just in case you have heard of the titles of shows, we have little jokey taglines we made up for them. So that's how we're gonna describe them for you to pick one.
I'm ready.
I'm proud of some of the names we came up with, but I really think our very first one is where we peaked. It's just perfect.
You never forget your first.
And how?
Right. Okay. So, I guess let's get to it. The first tier that we are going to start our series with is the just good TV tier.
Okay. I can handle this.
So yeah. So we thought, these are shows that even sort of going back to, if you didn't know what anime was, this would be something that would be just good TV. You could appreciate this without knowing anything else about anime. And we have 3 shows. Who would like to read our taglines?
Oh, me. Teacher. This is my favorite part of the show.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, Bob. Your choices are Rise and Grind, get that bell pepper and beef. No beef. Seize the means of Hex Tech production. Or Heavy Metal Karaoke to soothe the 9-to-5 soul.
Okay. Let's see here. So, a singing competition, a cooking competition, or whatever that was in the middle.
Perfect. I love this. Nobody help him.
It totally wasn't my socialist Marxist humor at all.
You know what? I'm going to start in the middle and go with the middle.
Oh, that was kind of my fear. So I'm also going to include that some of these aren't quote-unquote anime. It's one of those, depending in the anime community who you ask, some things are anime, others are just anime adjacent. I would say this straddles that line because it absolutely wasn't an anime original concept. But when you look at its art style, because, Bob, this branched from a game. You're watching an interpretation of a video game I know you've at least heard of in passing. And you won't have to look hard. It's on Netflix for you to
Okay.
watch. So, Bob, I want to ask you, are you a top lane, middle lane, or bottom lane kind of guy?
What?
I don't know. Because you're going to be watching Arcane, Bob.
I didn't know. I was filling out my dating profile crap.
Bob, you're watching Arcane, which is based off of League of Legends.
Oh. Okay.
Now, let me preface this of, I had the same reaction when I heard this show was coming out. Okay. And then I actually sat down and watched it after, it'd been out for a month. And it's actually really good, Bob.
Yeah,
it's actually really good.
I've heard a lot of good things, but I'll be honest, I'm kind of excited because this is a show I have not watched yet, so.
Will I LOL? Aha!
Well, I mean, you might, because there definitely are funny movies moments in this series, but there's also I mean there is a non amount of maybe not happy fun times. So
Okay.
Bob, this is why the reason I would put this on our list is because this is how I could see introducing a friend to the concept of good animated television. It may not technically be anime, but the way it conducts itself, its level of story writing, the way they present their characters, is in line with some of the better anime productions out there. So that's why this made the list. This is a gateway to this world of anime you are entering into. Now, as for watching episodes, it wasn't till 2 hours ago that I sat down and looked at how long each episode is. They're all 44 minutes.
Woo.
Okay.
Yeah, but to be fair, they're not like long 44 minutes. When you watch them, it feels like I remember thinking this was like a 30-minute show. They are the better part of an hour, but I would say that it flies by enough because the storytelling is very fluid. It doesn't really drag. It keeps you going. And I'll let you know, while we're not going to go ahead yet with which specific episodes, I've decided I'm not going to start you at the beginning. I'm going to drop you in where a good hook should be.
Okay.
And this will be kind of that baseline early litmus test for what you think going forward. This could be seen as fitting into a shonen type category, but honestly, if this was an anime, I'd say this is more along the lines of a seinen, which is more geared for adults.
New terms. Oh, good.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Write these down, Bob. You don't have to memorize them yet.
Shonen, Shoujo, and Satan?
Seinen.
And Shogi.
Oh, must be his wife. Okay, Seinen.
Yes, Bob. Seinen. Satan's wife.
Mr. Seinen from Dragon Ball
Dragon Ball
Z.
Z.
Yeah.
The American version of
Yes.
Dragon Ball Z, yes. So that's what we're going to start you with. And I somehow knew this was going to happen.
I think it's perfect because, like you said, it is, this is the just good TV tier. And so I think something that, starting with something that is the most anime adjacent while arguably not anime is kind of the perfect way to start.
And that's truthfully how I feel. I know that, like I said, there will be detractors. Your opinions are valid. They're absolutely your opinions. I would say this absolutely falls into, like I said, an anime category just because of how it's presented.
Gotcha.
So, but yes, this is what I would consider a perfect gateway to start on it because it will still be formatted in a way that you are absolutely familiar with.
Gotcha. I'm looking forward to it.
So, excellent.
Okay, so now that that's decided, it's about time to wrap this up.
I would say so. I mean,
Did we ever say our names?
Oh, probably not.
Specifically?
Our names were mentioned at various points.
Sure.
However, I'm Bob. Hi.
I'm Nick.
I'm Joe, the research gremlin.
And I'm, sir, not appearing in this film. But for now, you can just go ahead and call me Chuck.
So, hey, it's producer Nick here. So this is an episode 0 because this is, as if you're watching the all right, yeah. If you're watching the video version, which you can find on our YouTube channel at a link which is not a custom link because we have no followers yet. We should have at least 4 followers on that channel. How did we mess this up so bad?
Listen, I told you it's been a crazy week for me. A crazy 2 weeks, excuse me.
So, we'll be sharing it, I'm sure. So hopefully if you're hearing this, you've already managed to find a YouTube version. We have a YouTube channel for the video version. Mm-hmm. We are also going to have an audio only version if you want to listen on your phone or wherever you get podcasts. So this is an episode 0 to both be sort of a prerequisite information giving you before we start our series, start our anime watching in earnest. this is also an episode 0, so I have something to put in that RSS feed, to have something to put on the channel. And partially, there is a lot of tech that we are using for the first time today. Peek behind the curtains, we have done some recordings before this to sort of get a feel for everything, which, you gotta get warmed up. But this is our first episode that you're going to see. Maybe if you're listening to this right now, we may have other episodes up already. Thank you for checking out any of them, honestly. But hopefully, like I said, by the time you hear this, you'll be able to subscribe on iTunes. You'll be able to subscribe in RSS, YouTube, pretty much anywhere you want to hear us. You should be able to get us there somehow. And hopefully that'll be all set and ready. And I want to thank y'all for listening to this bit if you have already. Okay. Unless anybody else has some closing thoughts, here, this is one of the pieces of new tech to try out. I have our outro ready to go, but we get about 10 seconds to say our goodbyes once I start it. So are we ready for goodbyes?
I am ready.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit this, and the music is already playing, so I want to say thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye!
Later.
Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. Cotty 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served.
And then you have a non sequitur for the stinger.